I'm sure there's other people that are asking what your name for this treatment program is Love Soluble, and I'm sure that others will be interested in what is the significance of that name, and yeah.
Well, I'm glad you asked.
Oh, good.
Thank you. So this may be a little longer answer, but it's a good question.
Okay.
So when I was incarcerated and I did a lot of my Bible studies while I was in there, and did a lot of Christian learning, read my Bible every day, and really connected with God. And all of this was born from an event where I had full submission to God, to Christ, and turned my life over to Him, was where all this was born from.
Okay.
Now, in my readings of the Bible, I remember reading about the Grand Commission and trying to understand how to take the good news and spread it to every being on earth.
Okay.
I have a little experience in my family owns a marketing and advertising company.
Okay.
So I have a little experience about spreading good news.
Yeah, communication.
So I said, this is marketing.
Yeah.
Right? So also at the same time I was trying to figure out how am I going to fund a treatment center, because in order to give private style treatment, it's going to have to be paid for, but the people I'm looking to give it to can't afford it.
Yes.
So I'm going to have to fund it. So how am I going to fund it? So my original idea had been that I would market a brand of clothing that would represent the not-for-profit, but would also take care of my duty as a Christian to fulfill the Grand Commission. So I said, well, how can you approach people and tell them the good news when half the people that you talk to, when you bring up the word God or Christ, immediately turn off and they don't want to hear it and will go the other way. And then I got to doing more study, and I read in 1 John about how God is love.
Yes.
And then I said, well, okay, so I can use the word love and God synonymously.
Okay.
And so that's what the love in Love Soluble represents, is it stands for God.
Yes.
But because I asked myself, what is the one thing that every human being desires to give and to receive is love. And you can't argue with that. And us Christians, we know that. We know that's what our relationship with God is. And so how do we communicate that to somebody who might otherwise not want to have that conversation? Well, love is appealing to everybody and everywhere and every language. And then the word soluble has two definitions. One is to dissolve into.
Okay.
So water into sugar is sugar is water soluble, because when you mix it up, it becomes like what it's put into.
Okay.
The other definition for soluble is able to be solved.
Okay.
So
that's right. Okay.
1 times 2 is a mathematical equation that is soluble because it is able to be solved.
Yes.
And then so the name Love Soluble, well, I feel like the solution lies in a relationship with God, or the solutions lies in an individual being loved. And so therefore we came up with the name Love Soluble. Love is the solution. God is the solution. That's the background on the name Love Soluble. However, this treatment center itself will go by a different name. So Love Soluble is our incorporation. Right?
That's fair.
This center that we're sitting in right now will be called the Manny Daniels Center.
Oh, that's right. And that was a friend of your friend Manny Daniels, you're doing it in honor of him.
Right. He was my cell partner
Okay,
for the last 2 bits. So while I developed his program, was my cell partner, was a person,
yeah,
actually an Indigenous person with a history of abuse through the residential schooling system. So you
okay.
can imagine me doing my Bible studies and the conversations we would have around that.
Yeah,
And so gave me a real opportunity to walk my faith in front of somebody without preaching it with my mouth.
exactly.
So Manny and I became quite good friends over the couple of years that we spent together. And in the end, I got released to come to Ottawa,
Okay,
and he was waiting to be released so that he could come to Ottawa.
yes,
And then he wasn't able to get bail. His
okay.
lawyer wanted him to finish his sentence. So when he was faced with his date of release, he chose to go out and use instead, and he died.
Oh my, did he overdose?
He overdosed.
Oh my,
So
that's tragic.
it is tragic.
Yeah.
In the last few letters that Manny and I wrote back and forth, he told me all about how he had actually been completing his Bible studies,
Oh, okay,
and that he was really excited about coming to Ottawa and getting treatment and starting a new life. And you know, so I was excited to have him come, but just the transformation that, you know, it just all of these things sort of lead into or have led towards what we're doing today, right?
okay, excellent.
And then understanding that a person can come to faith, just, you know, I don't have to say something to that person for them to come to faith, but if I walk out a good faith walk in front of them, it's so attractive that they may come to faith on their own, right? And we pray for, you know, I prayed for Manny.
Yeah,
And, so same with the future, or the men that will come to this center.
that's right.
Is it it's not a prerequisite that they are Christians. Well, they'll get some exposure to
Yeah.
faith while they're here. We do go to church. We do read from the Bible. But that's something that's a choice for any man that's here.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that explanation.
I told you it was going to be a little longer than you
well,
anticipated.
that's fine.